Today I want to show you how I more than doubled my reading speed using a simple tool and how you can too. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and usually I make technical videos, but today I wanted to focus on a topic that I think most people struggle with, and that is reading quickly and actually comprehending the subject matter. So my motivation for trying to learn how to read faster was kind of rooted in my struggles in personal reading. I find that I would always try to read before bed and just struggle to get through any meaningful impact in any of the books I was reading. Or if I was reading a book like this one, it's only a couple hundred pages long, I would make very little progress into it despite spending a lot of time. And so I saw a couple YouTube videos of people just blowing through books like this really quickly and also able to comprehend it, and I figured I want to do that. And I figured this is a very common emotion. A lot of people do a lot of reading, but they never take the time to actually learn how to read properly and effectively. And that's the motivation for this video, to share the learnings that I've had with you today. So after a large amount of research and exploration on how people read faster, I ended up learning that, wow, I was doing a lot of things wrong. So I ended up learning that speed reading is not something that you're just born with as a skill. I realized through my copious amounts of research that speed reading is a technique. And like anything, like any technique in life, it's something that you can learn with deliberate practice. And that's what I'm going to show you in today's video. Now, don't forget to stick around to the end because I'm also going to include 3 bonus tips that I found help me consistently read at high levels of speed throughout my day. Alright guys, so before we get into the technique on how to actually improve, what I first want to talk about is common pitfalls that people fall into the trap of when they're trying to learn. These are things that you don't necessarily realize, they're just things that you do as you're reading material. Have you ever read a page of a book and then a few moments later realize, hey, I have no idea what I just read? I like to think this happens to a lot of people, yourself included. It used to happen to me a lot of the time. This is a concept called drifting. In our busy lives, it's a very natural tendency to just drift away when we're reading, especially if we're not engaged in the content that we're trying to get through. So this is pitfall number 1, avoiding drifting. Now, a quick fix for drifting is deliberate mental focus. When you're reading, it's not a time to be thinking about your day or thinking about anything else other than what's on the page in front of you. You really need to get out of the habit of reading the individual words and really visualizing the content that's being described on the page. So that's pitfall number 1, it's drifting. So let's move on to pitfall number 2. When you're reading the words in a book, do you sometimes mouth the words that you are reading on the page? Or sometimes say them, but like in your head, not necessarily out loud, but you're kind of reciting the words one by one in your head? This is a term called subvocalization. I had no idea there was a word for this thing, and I also had no idea that it's something that you should definitely not be doing because it drastically slows down the speed in which you read. So I'm going to put up a phrase here, and I want you to read this phrase and try and catch yourself. See if you subvocalize and mouth these words as you read them across the screen. Did you try it? If you caught yourself subvocalizing, don't feel bad about it because it's an extremely common way that people read and get through material. It also turns out that it's one of the biggest factors that contribute to slowing down the pace in which you can read. Subvocalization is a habit that's difficult to break, especially if you've been doing it for your entire life. But I wouldn't give up because it's something that you can easily get over with some deliberate practice. What I want you to focus on next time is instead of vocalizing these words under your breath or in your brain, I want you to focus on grasping the ideas. Read with your brain, not with your mouth. Don't read for the individual words, read the phrases and the ideas that those words are conveying. Now that we've covered 2 of the most common pitfalls of speed reading, I want to move on to the tools and techniques that I used to personally improve my reading speed from around 300 words per minute to over 600 on average. Improving at something and being proud of yourself is one thing, but if you're analytical like me, you want to see the data and you want to see proof that you're actually improving over time. Now, if you're a similar person, then you're going to love this tool. Now, this tool is called Read Speeder, and this is not a sponsored video. This is not a video where anyone has paid me to talk about this product or anything about this product at all. This is just from a perspective of a person like me that wanted to get better at something, did a whole bunch of research to figure out how to do it, and found an amazing tool that gave me deliberate practice material to improve on that. And I wanted to share that with you today. Now, Read Speeder is something that looks like it's born out of 1990 or something. It's really old looking, but don't let the looks deceive you. This thing does what it's supposed to do, and that's the reason that I like it. It's a stripped down, no frills attached. It's going to make you better at reading, no question about it. So the way that this kind of tool works is that there's a whole bunch of different lessons that focus on different areas. Now, initially the lessons start out very easy. You just focus on a phrase, and that phrase just flashes and rotates, and as it's rotating, you're getting through material of a book. It also provides you with material, and you can also go to the site and upload your own reading material. However, I would encourage you to kind of stick to what they've provided, because I find that they start with some very visual reading subject matter, such as like The Wizard of Oz or Peter Pan, things that help you train that mental stimulation, that mental visualization. And I find that when you're trying to get better at speed reading, since the emphasis is on visualizing the subject matter, it really helps to have material that is kind of colorful in nature and easy to visualize and reason with. So there's around 15 or so different lessons that you can work through on Read Speeder, and the difficulty kind of ramps up as you go along. So at the beginning, you're just having words that are flashing in front of you. In the middle, it kind of advances to you have a whole paragraph, but it fades away the sections that aren't relevant and highlights the sections that are relevant, and you can kind of navigate through like I'm showing you again. And then at the end, it's basically no strings attached or no training wheels attached at all. You're just on your own and you need to get through that whole material. Now, with each lesson, there's a deliberate skill that it's trying to teach you. So for instance, there's a particular section that's trying to train you on reading in phrases and kind of jumping with your eyes as opposed to reading in a straight line. One of the main ideas of speed reading is reading in chunks and training your eyes to do micro jumps from different phrases from one to the next to the next to the next. And using that technique, it's a lot easier to get through a lot more material much quicker. Now, the way that they help you do this, as an example, is they embed these red dots in the page and ask you to focus on these red dots to train your eyes to move from one section to another. It sounds a little bit unusual just to describe it with words, but I promise you that if you actually try it, you can literally feel the difference in reading before and after using this very simple technique. Now, what I realized by using this tool and just doing a lot of research on speed reading in general is that reading at a fixed rate is a really bad idea. You can think of speed reading as a sliding scale. You're going to increase speed at certain sections of your text, and you're going to slow that speed down at other sections of your text. For example, if you're reading something that's technical in nature, maybe a definition of something in a book that you're reading, you may want to slow that down so you can really absorb that material. In contrast, if you're reading something that's very descriptive and using a lot of adjectives to describe a situation or an object, that's something that you can ramp up that speed and get through that very quickly. So as you're reading, treat it like a sliding scale. You want to spend a little bit more time on stuff that's difficult to get through and ramp that up so that you can blow through material that's easy to get through and you don't need to put a lot of thought into. Now, I want to say that by doing my own research about the psychology of speed reading and by using this tool regularly, I was able to more than double my reading speed. So a book like this that is 200 pages or so, I could probably get through this in a couple hours now, whereas in the past this could take me probably 6 hours or more. So a huge improvement for me, and it's really helped comprehend as well. Now I want to share with you now 3 practice tips that I've used to consistently keep my reading speed high over time. And I find like anything in life, if you don't deliberately practice over and over again, you're going to kind of get worse at it over time unless you're staying up to speed. So my first tip for you is that at the beginning of your day, just go to the ReadSpeeder website and do one quick lesson, read one blurb. What I find is that since the tool is calibrated to your reading speed, it'll help you kind of set your starting point of how fast you're supposed to be reading. What you'll find is that if you do this, once you switch over to actually working or reading in leisure, you'll see that your brain is already kind of wired to be reading at a particular speed, as opposed to just reverting back to your natural tendencies of slow reading. So if you do this consistently, just read a blurb at the beginning of every day, this sets the precedent and helps train your mind at the speed that you want to apply while reading for the rest of your day. My second tip is to practice at a speed that is about 25 to 30% faster than what you are comfortable with. I find that if you want to improve drastically, you need to start reading quickly and sacrifice comprehension. And if you do that over and over and over again, what you'll find, if you keep that speed static, your comprehension abilities will actually start to improve. So this is a tip that I've personally tried and I was able to consistently improve over time just by reading material at a faster speed than what I was comfortable with. Now, I would suggest that you don't do this with a book that you particularly care about, or do this while you're using the ReadSpeeder tool, because it's material that you don't care about anyways. You will sacrifice comprehension in favor of speed, but over time you're going to have some long-lasting speed improvements that you'll be able to apply day to day. And so my last tip for you is to practice, practice, and more practice. This is something that is a skill that you can learn over time if you apply yourself, just like I have learned and improved my speed from 300 to 600 words per minute consistently over the past 6 months. Again, the name of the tool is called ReadSpeeder. I'll put a link down below in the description section. And if you do try it out, let me know the before and after, how much you were able to improve your reading speed. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.